I'm Father Stephen Riley here in Salamanca in Spain. In the background are the beautiful towers of the former Jesuit university called the Clerecería. It's now the Pontifical University of Salamanca. But originally it was built as a university and a place of training of Jesuit priests. And in this location, in this country, we might be able to reflect upon one of the greatest saints of this land, St. Ignatius of Loyola. He was the founder of the Society of Jesus, the Jesuits, along with his companions in Paris. And he continues to be an inspiration to so many today, not just within the Society of Jesus, but far beyond. Ignatius began life as a soldier, and it was at the Battle of Pamplona that he was injured. His leg was shattered, and he had to spend a long period of months in convalescence. During that time, he began to read books about knights, about soldiers, about valour and about honour, but also other books about the life of the saints and the life of Jesus. And Ignatius found that when he was reading the books about the lives of the saints and about Jesus, that he felt what he would call consolation, a great inner sense of strength and of peace, a great sense of energy. Whereas when he read those other stories, the romantic stories of chivalry and of knighthood, he felt empty. He felt what he would call desolation. It helped him to develop what we would now call the discernment of spirits, that through what we are drawn to and what we are repulsed by, we are able to understand what decisions we should make in life and what God is calling us to do and who we should be. This was particularly undertaken through the writings of St. Ignatius regarding the spiritual exercises. The exercises are a retreat which lasts for 28 days. And during that time, as well as praying our way through the Gospels, we also get an opportunity to discern what state of life we should undertake or where God is calling us. And this happens through a very deep awareness of our own feeling of consolation and of desolation. Consolation, what in our lives gives us a sense of purpose, a sense of meaning, gives us deep spiritual energy and brings us closer to God. And what other things make us empty, gives us a sense of being dissipated and of not having purpose. What we are drawn to in terms of consolation is what we should consider to be our choice, whether it's the daily choices of life or whether it's the much larger choices of our state of life. What Ignatius helps us to understand is that we can make these choices every day and that we can follow a program in which we're able to get in contact with our consolation and desolation. It's what is called the consciousness examen. Ignatius recommends that every day, especially towards the end of the day, that we look back over the day and we allow the Holy Spirit to hover, if you like, above that day and to lead us to understand where God has been present, where we have experienced consolation and where rather God has been absent or he's felt absent and where we've felt desolation. And when we are able to review our day with gratitude, with thanksgiving, with a very strong perception of the presence of God, but also an awareness of our own sinfulness and failures, over time we're able to follow the decisions and the ways that God shows us where we will find greater fulfillment and where we'll be able to carry out God's will. When we have a really big decision to face within the spiritual exercises, Ignatius gives us some really interesting and useful pointers. So if you have a big decision to make, one way in which you can help to make it is to imagine that someone else is making the decision and the person has come to you to ask for advice. What advice would you give that person? And then when you formulate that advice, then you apply it to yourself. What advice, therefore, would you give yourself? And that is something which reveals our deepest selves and our deepest desires and can help us to choose well and in accordance with God's will. A second way that Ignatius recommends to us is that we imagine that we have died and that we face the final judgment. What would we like to bring before God in order to present him as our life's work? Would I like to come before God as a priest? Would I like to come before him as a married man, as a father, as a mother, as a grandparent, as a teacher, as a lawyer? And when we think of that in almost like as our life has been summed up, how would we like it to be summed up and how would we like to present it to God? And that helps us to get into touch with our deepest desires and the will of God for us. One way of doing that, which modern Ignatian spiritual directors would direct us to, is something slightly different. It would be writing your own obituary. Imagine your life has come to an end and someone else is writing about you. What would you like them to write? Would you like them to write, looking back in your life, that you were an excellent priest, a wonderful father, an excellent husband, a great teacher? That helps us to understand what we really want from life, what is our deepest desire, and where God is calling us to be. Ignatius is so certain that the Holy Spirit is hovering above our lives, guiding us, helping us through our own emotions, our own decisions, our own consolations and desolations to reveal the will of God. And if we are in tune with that Holy Spirit, we'll always make the right decision.